Welcome, everybody, to the Velvet Ditch podcast, live from Oxford, Mississippi. I'm Nick Douglas, here with my guy Jared Foster, live from the Velvet Ditch. We're rocking and rolling in episode 2 of the Velvet Ditch podcast, right here, baby. Come check out the Velvet Ditch at 430 South Lamar Boulevard in Oxford, Mississippi. Jared, how you doing today, baby?
Fantastic. Appreciate you guys on the other side of the camera. Thanks for making this happen. The Velvet Ditch is built by you guys as well, watching this. Obviously, we're trying to bring truth to you guys, obviously, a little bit of entertainment, and focus on what the Velvet Ditch is really about, which is clearly Oxford, from Ole Miss fans to the culture to God's story. And I'm super grateful for Nick here, my partner in crime. We love you.
Absolutely. So we've got a lot to uncover. Speaking of the Velvet Ditch, what is the outlook for the Velvet Ditch in the month of December? You've got a Christmas break coming into play. You've got a playoff game coming into play. What is your take on what this month will hold?
Well, obviously it's the first time for everybody here. None of us have had this happen before, which hats off to our football team and our amazing staff that has helped us get to this point. But we have a break. It's weird, the college kids go home on the 12th of December, and then you have 7 days until the playoff game that is hosted here that we expect to be possibly Virginia, Tulane, somebody like that. Whoever it is, 1-0. And the goal is more than likely a lot of these kids that instead of them going home over a 7-day period and flying back, a lot of them will stay here. So we'll probably have a lot of activity here at the bar throughout the week. And then we've now started focusing really heavy on our food specials for locals, trying to get you guys out as well. So we expect it to be packed. All the hotel rooms are booked. The energy's insane here. And that's really our goal, is to make sure that we keep it on, the up and up.
So, Jared, you were in town this past week when everything kind of unfolded. Take me through what that was like as both a fan and then as a business owner.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people relate the Velvet Ditch and Lane Kiffin together because he supported little us and big him, right? And we appreciate that. Some people even thought he was a partner of the business for quite a while, and that's not the case. It's these coaches and these players to step into a leadership role and not put a pacifier in their mouth and say, "Oh, we lost our head coach going into the playoffs, son. You're going to be a 37-year-old telling your kids, hey, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but if our head coach left, we got so emotional, we just couldn't win." Or you can be the person that says, hey, our head coach decided to go, which I think, believe it or not, dig deeper, I think Lane Kiffin's biggest fear, I've tried to swap roles, his biggest fear would be laying in his bed down in Baton Rouge, and we might just happen to still win the national title. Sorry, but that is a fear. If Lane Kiffin decides to go, when we win the Egg Bowl, hopefully, right? I'm a realistic Ole Miss fan. I was celebrating the Liberty Bowl as a kid, and if we won the Egg Bowl at the end of the year and got 6 wins, I was jumping for joy, right? So some of those games had a lot more meaning back then, and I hate to say that, but we've become a little numb. So as a fan,
High class problem, by the way.
yeah, and that's great. I'm not look, gratitude. As a fan, you feel like you're getting just ripped. Where are we going? Why don't you love us? Why is this not enough? Especially when somebody preaches that this is the Velvet Ditch and it's home and you got everything you prayed for. Prayed for is what he said. Planted some seeds, a fruit tree. The fruit doesn't come till the end. As a fan, we're at the end. The fruit's hanging. It's heartbreaking to think, oh my God, we don't get to grab the fruit, but the players and the coaches that stayed overcame that. So as a fan, it was a lot. It was a struggle. But as a realistic Ole Miss fan, I'm just grateful that we did not actually have faithful team players and coaches leave. I'm so grateful. And it feels like a major weight has been lifted off of all of our backs. And we got a Mississippi boy coaching us now. We've got a great coaching staff. We'll get into that in a minute. As a business owner, my business is not affected whether Lane supports us or not. This is the Velvet Ditch, and it was the Velvet Ditch before Lane ever showed up, and this will be the Velvet Ditch long and gone. Again, the Velvet Ditch is a city, not just our brand. Even if our brand one day shuts down, the Velvet Ditch is Oxford, Mississippi. So the support's the same. Our enthusiasm here is at the highest it's ever been as a fan and as a business. We're grateful. We've been maximized. God is good.
Absolutely. I love that. It's real interesting because if you look back at our last episode, what I continue to harken back to, and as I was in Seattle on the road, seeing all this go down, the leadership at Ole Miss is the best it's ever been.
Ever.
And you look at the hires, you look at the retention, you look at the enrollment, look at the real estate around Oxford. I know our chancellor very well.
Yeah.
He's an incredible ally and friend.
Yeah.
I've known Keith Carter since I sent him an email in 7th grade about getting paint back in our end zones. Which if we have Keith on here, we can talk about that story. How I sent him an email about an Instagram survey, and that led to an incredible friendship. And he's been an integral part of my experience in Oxford. But I just knew, with all the message boards were saying this, and people were texting me that, and the plane trackers are saying this, I could have peace of mind. Now, granted, I was at two different football games after the Egg Bowl. So I was at the Egg Bowl, I was at Washington, Oregon, I was at Vikings Seahawks. So there was a lot going on. And of course, it doesn't help when players of these pro teams who are from Ole Miss are running right up to me saying, what is going on in Oxford?
Yeah.
But I had incredible peace of mind knowing our leadership is the best. We don't have egos in that office. We don't have people with conniving agendas. And I knew for a fact, whoever our hires were going to be, we were never going to wrestle with this issue again of, does this person really want to be here?
Yeah, that's huge. And I mean, look at episode 1 on the last, podcast that we did. We talked about the idea, if Lane leaves, who really cares? A lot of emotions are going to care, but when it comes to the system, we talked about, we didn't want another coach to come in. We were very loud about that. We did not want another coach to come in here. And why? Dear God. Why would we need another coach? Why would we need another system? From Joe Judge to Pete Golding to Weiss, and obviously all the way down to Moncrief and everybody else we could name. We have a great coaching staff. We have a great system. Why would we want to bring in another leader? We didn't need one. We have leaders. 99% of a great system is being ran by those coaches, and the 1% being Lane Kiffin, he's gone. I think it's clear that the college football playoff agreed with us. We stayed as number 6. Actually, we moved up one spot. We moved up to number 6. We did the impossible, and I think our team's about to do the impossible as well. From other people's view, is that we can't win without a coach. They get a chance to do something nobody's ever going to have the opportunity to do again.
Let's talk about the opportunity of a lifetime that sits in front of Ole Miss football.
Yeah.
They have the chance. So the jury is out now, right? Because when a team is on an elite run, and the coach leaves for a rival or a competitor, that does not make that coach, that does not make that former job look elite anymore. Especially a program like Ole Miss. You walk into our stadium, you walk into Florida, and you see 8 SEC championships past 1990. You look in the other corner, you see 3 national titles, all 1996, 2007, 2008. You walk into our stadium, you look up on our board in the south end zone, you don't see anything past 1962. So we were on an incredible trajectory.
Yep.
But we don't have the accolades. We don't have the Heismans. We don't have the championships. And so the jury is out on whether or not we are an elite program. Having said that, Ole Miss has been spat upon, has been ridiculed. They've had issues like 4th and 25. They've had issues like the Treadwell leg incident. Now you've got a coach that's bolting on a championship team, his first championship team that he's the head coach of, team that can actually compete for a title, that's qualified to compete for a title. Ole Miss's first team to qualify to compete for a title since the 60s. And once again, like, the curse has come down. And the opportunity is here to etch their name in college football history as the only program that the coach walked out on for more resources and more amenities and better NIL for the next season, supposedly. And here we have a group of guys that committed to this program, that committed to this coach, that now can go and compete for a national title when their coach quit on them. Their leader quit. The leader that brought them here quit on them.
Yeah.
And here they are. This doesn't happen at Ohio State.
Yep.
Ryan Day is one of the winningest coaches of all time. He'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer immediately. One of the best coaches to ever take the sideline. He didn't walk out. There's no way he would walk out on Ohio State. There's no way championship teams wrestle with this. But here we are. Ole Miss is number 6 in the country, and they have their head coach quit on them right before the playoff. So what does this opportunity of a lifetime look like in your eyes for Ole Miss football?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to step into being a 37-year-old, like who I am now, and I look back on who I was when I was a child, and the excuses that, the trauma, the things that happened to you, you like to use as an excuse of why you ended up where you are. And my message to these youngsters, and they don't realize how young they are, but they're so wealthy to be that age and to have the opportunities they have right now. You can't get 15 years back. You can't buy time back. You got to dig into the trauma. I mean, some of these kids may not have had the best dads. And in return, these coaches are second fathers. You saw what Chambliss said about Joe Judge being a second dad and a leadership standpoint. You look at what Austin Simmons just did. I've got mad respect for Austin. I've spoke about that a few times. Austin literally changed his profile picture to Joe Judge. Man, Joe Judge is not talked enough about. That is a leader here with a background that is just literally unfathomable. The guy coached at the Patriots, with Tom Brady. He coached under Saban, Lane Kiffin, Belichick, Saban, Kiffin. I don't know what other staff we need. We have it. We have the leaders. But these players obviously are dealing with a little bit of trauma, and I don't think you realize you're going through trauma until, 10 years later, you look back and how did that affect you? They're either going to be 37 telling people coulda, woulda, shoulda, but the coach quit on me, and that could be their excuse. But it sounds like the team's come together. It sounds like the story is not actually what Lane said it was. The players, the state of Mississippi, administration here at Ole Miss have all vocalized that what Lane said is not true. The players didn't care for him to stay. And I've talked to players directly, 10 plus, and the verdict is out. They didn't care that Lane left. They're more motivated now than they were before the Egg Bowl. I do believe that they have the opportunity of a lifetime to be the only school in history, possibly, hopefully, ever. Hopefully, Lane's the only coach that ever does this to their team.
We don't want to wish this on anybody else.
Seriously, we don't want this to ever happen. This is it.
Team, unique circumstance. No coach should ever quit on a championship team again.
Period. Or they're the same person they were before we hired them. And I think that's what we need to accept instead of acting like Oxford changed anybody. It didn't. It didn't change him. He's still the same, and that's fine. Guess what? Oxford moves on. Again, we're the Velvet Ditch. We're the Ole Miss Rebels, and we're going to do the unthinkable. Whether we win or lose that game, the effort that these players put into that day is on the biggest target and the biggest scale of anything Ole Miss has ever gone through. And people are going to see this forever. Their children are going to see it in 15 years. They're going to be able to see who was my father at 20 years old. How did he handle this? And to me, that's an opportunity. It's not a problem. It's an opportunity. And man, I wish I had that opportunity at 20 years old. Pete, on everything I ever did at that age, and time has passed up. I'm super grateful for the city of Oxford and Ole Miss fans to be able to have this because we get to prove that we get to overcome. Win or lose, we get the choice to decide if we get to overcome this or not.
I wish you had the opportunity to stand in front of the team meeting room at the Manning Center and say that to these guys.
Yeah, I love them. That would be cool. What's up, guys? Jared here with the Velvet Ditch Seafood and Sports Bar. This message is for you. Please pay attention because some of you are going to be upset when the price goes up. It has to. You can't have too many members at a certain tier and it not go up because then you'll have a lot of members here and people won't be getting what they paid for, okay? You don't want to get overcrowded to where we can't give you proper service. So why did we create a membership for you? $25 a month is unlimited cover year-round. You get to bring 10 people with you and they get 50% off cover. So students, your parents should be getting this message. They would love to save money on cover at a sports bar, seafood place where they can eat and have fun and hang out without being overcharged. But outside of the cover, bigger than that, Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesday nights, there's a Velvet Club menu. You get 6 items of food and alcohol where you get buy one, get one. Literally, buy one, get one every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So we have a burger and fries, we have catfish and fries, we have Royal Reds and sides, chicken tenders and fries for the kids, or our chicken tenders are the best in town, in my opinion. No disrespect to everybody else, they're phenomenal. But my point is, you get to bring somebody for free. They get to eat with you for free. You get out Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you get a margarita for free by buying one. You don't have to buy a burger and a burger. If you buy from the menu, you get any other item for free. We're doing that for you, for our staff, and to pay it forward. You're getting your $25 back by just being able to come out and eat once or twice a month. So it's not like we're making money off of that. We're building a community. We love you guys. We owe it back to you. Please pass the message on. Thank you so much for the support and God bless.
The story of this team going into the year was supposed to be pretty anticlimactic. This was not supposed to be a wild year for Ole Miss. This was supposed to be a come down from the 9 draft pick roster most in school history. Last year was the window. Last year was the year to compete.
Yep.
And 13 points and a lack of a run game are what prevented us from competing for a title. And so this was meant to be a retooling year. Let's figure out our quarterback. Let's see, how we can compete. I think our over-under wins at the beginning of the year was about 8.5, and I think that was accurate.
Yeah.
Talking to some guys before the season, there was a pretty reasonable expectation. Anyone that told me we were going to the playoff or we were going to be in the run for the playoff, I their credibility might have taken a hit.
With two returning starters.
Two returning
Two
starters.
returning starters. Let's talk about that. Let's not miss the reality that we had two returning starters from last year, which tells you what
Was that two on offense and two on defense?
I don't want to claim that,
Okay.
but I'm going to go based off what I've heard out of coach's
it
mouth.
was
Two returning
digit,
starters
yes.
somewhere in there. But look at the idea that our portal king, Pete Golding, Coach Golding. Obviously, Kelvin Bolden, you were a huge asset to that. I know you're not here anymore, as of this podcast, but in return, we have a great opportunity to be able to give credit to the people that built the city's, not the city, the team's success. Obviously, it's the players putting out the actions, but the whole foundation behind who recruited. And for those recruits that aren't sure about Ole Miss, you might want to dig into who actually recruited the last 3 to 4 years, 5, 6 years, who really spent the time with these athletes. Was it Lane or was it offensive coordinator, tight ends coach? Who are you spending time with? Because that's going to be basically your leader in your life here. And those coaches are still here. And they actually have more heart to lead you here because they stayed through the trials and tribulations of what everybody else tapped out on, that got on that plane and left. Dig into that as an 18-year-old and the father of those kids, you out in California, wherever you're going to send your kid, whether it's Oxford or not, please dig into the morals of who are the men that are going to lead my child, not into the NFL, but as a good human being, because that is the most vital, important part of what you're doing as a father and a mother, where you talk your kid into going to play football because that's who they're spending their time with. And we have a godly culture here. We have great Christian leaders here that stayed through this situation. And I've got hats off to that. How Pete Golding handled that the other night, whenever he got the introduction,
Incredible.
He's always spoiling me. He took me to the side, he took me to courtside Denver Nuggets the other night, man. He also courtside to the Ole Miss basketball game the other night. Pete Golding was supposed to have an introductory where he came up and, did his introduction speech, and literally he did exactly what he should have done. All spotlight on the players. He did the unthinkable from a Lane Kiffin side of things. He actually put the spotlight back on the ones that earned it, and he introduced them at halftime and gave all the credit, and the whole stadium was in an uproar celebrating Ole Miss's football team at halftime in the Miami game the other night.
And I think what's beautiful about that is that was awesome. And to have you there for that, to be there together and to see smiles on everybody's face was special. But I thought what was even more telling was his introductory press conference was scheduled for the next day.
Yep.
He released a statement that said, we don't have any time. I'm paraphrasing here, but we don't have any time to be focused on, me answering questions or me basically giving donor speak about why Ole Miss is going to be a great destination. There's nothing to celebrate here except for the guys on this roster. For far too long, the spotlight has been off the guys on the roster.
That's right.
And throughout this whole tenure, it was all about Lane. Lane
Yep.
was the brand.
Yeah.
He was the birth of the sip. That was under Lane.
We're 11-1.
The birth of Juice. That was all under Lane. The party and the sip, all that good stuff, that was all under Lane. He's a marketing genius. But finally, we have a coach that wants to be here for the long haul. He's homegrown.
That's right.
And we've got a coach that didn't care to put on a suit and have his family there and stand in front of a select group of people and talk about how great it is and how awesome he is and how great he feels to be the Ole Miss head coach.
Yeah, no.
He knows he's got a signing day. He's got to build a roster. He's got to take care of the players that he recruited.
Yep.
And then he's got to go put the spotlight on one of the wildest stories where you've got a Division II quarterback. He's getting a lot of love in the front end of the year. Why has all that died? Why is he not in the Heisman race? Where's Kawan Lacey in the Heisman race?
Well, when a head coach isn't spending his time on camera talking about his players, look back at when Nick Saban, I'll never forget that interview when Nick Saban said that the two players stood up and he was like, whoa, sit down. And he literally gave the credit and he brought in the energy. Even after those players lost that game, he immediately was like, wait, these guys put their heart out. Where is that from a leadership standpoint? Pete Golding, Joe Judge, they're doing that. Oh man, we're blessed to have them as leaders here, dude. Like me and my dad were literally getting after it on the phone with each other, and it wasn't a negative conversation. We're just real with each other.
Yeah.
We were raw, and we were both obviously going through that fan strain of like, oh my God. But we talked about how cool it would be if the administration made the right decision and put these guys in the position to lead and not have to worry about a new leader coming in. Do I think John Summerall would have been a great choice? I do, but
Absolutely.
guess what? Who cares? Let him lead somewhere else. We already have five-star human beings. More important than being a five-star coach, we have five-star human beings leading the next generation of people that walk around and say they were Ole Miss athletes. And here in Oxford, that is so much more important than winning. We've already won. The season can end right now. We're 11-1. We've already won.
And I think when you look at leadership, let's look at the leadership that decided to leave. Let's look at the ringleader, Lane Kiffin, who goes on national TV and rebukes this claim that he made people get on a plane to Baton Rouge. And then you've got the backlash of he goes on this statement where the AD did not allow him to coach after requests from the players. Players have spoken out and said that is false. They've spoken out publicly.
Not true.
And now you've got, among many claims, like not knowing what his contract was.
Yeah, that in the camera, bro. You looked straight in the camera and said, I didn't even see my contract. Well, money doesn't matter. Oh, wow.
So we can
He
Google
even said he didn't even know what his last contract was at Ole Miss.
we can Google your contract
Here.
and we can see it, but you don't know it as the head coach.
How many more things can you say before nobody trusts you?
And then on top of that, oh well, we let our staff do what they want. That's an independent decision of them. We're not making anybody get on a plane. Well, come to find out that that's not really the case. So what must it have been like to be, there with, obviously Lane is a single guy. He has his family here, but he's pretty independent. What's it like for some of these coaches or some of these analysts that were sort of given the ultimatum?
They weren't sort of given an ultimatum.
They were given an
I
ultimatum.
have spoken directly to people that got on the plane, and people that didn't get on the plane. Everything we talk about in here is going to be factual. There will be some opinion based stuff, but we're not going to hammer down on something hard unless it's factual. Factual. It was an ultimatum. You either get on the plane or you don't have a job here. And if you look at the way it was set up all the way into Saturday night, all the way down to Alabama, Auburn, none of the coaches, the domino effect of Summerall all the way into, Missouri, et cetera, all these coaches, mad respect to all of you. You were living the American dream. But there was a domino effect that happened after Lane Kiffin committed to LSU. And when he did, it looked like he left us out to dry. He looked like even John, or it looked like, if you listen to what John Summerall said, he said it. This isn't some AI generated. John Summerall said, oh, and Lane Kiffin's the one that told me to take this Florida job, right along those lines. He even said it was
he said the term co-signed.
Co-signed, which means like, and you give it up to the Nick Saban thing and you give it up to Pete Carroll. Let's talk about Nick Saban for a minute. I got respect for you too, brother, because you're the GOAT. But you literally fired Lane Kiffin for taking the FAU job and wouldn't let him coach. And then you got on ESPN and said, don't know why Ole Miss wouldn't let Lane Kiffin coach, even though he's going to go to LSU. What do you mean? You can't be a hypocrite.
That means he's in on the operation. That's what it tells me.
Bottom line, and in Alabama, you look at who Jim. You look. I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to call him out. But you look at his agent, Lane's agent, and you look at also his agent is DeBoer's agent over at Alabama. And if Alabama would have lost to Auburn, the real question is what was going to happen? A lot of you can say, oh, I don't think he was going to get the Alabama job. None of us really know. But for him to be so tight and not sure, but then he talks about he told people a week before he was leaving. No, he did not. He did not tell people a week before that he was leaving. And the coaches that got on that plane, they were put in a position to have to uproot their children, their wives, for the risk of are they going to have a job in Oxford? Because if Coach Summerall or whoever it was going to come in, they might have brought a whole staff in. So obviously the coaches that stayed, man, we cannot underrate what they did by staying here and stepping up and doing the right thing to lead these players. I've got text messages from leaders saying they are not quitting on this team and our coaches stayed here. I think we're on fire right now for positivity. I think things are headed in the right direction.
That says a lot about the draw of Oxford, especially in an era where there's no loyalty between coaches and between players. Nobody builds a program anymore. The fact that we had a large portion of the staff say, you know what, you guys can take the plane. I'm committed to this group. I'm committed to Oxford. I'm committed to this program.
Yep.
In an era where it is not cool to be committed to a program.
Yep.
It is not sexy to do that. It is revenue slashing for you to commit to the same program, unless you're, a wild exception to the rule. But there's always more money elsewhere.
Yep.
And so to look at the people that stuck around, to look at the people that have spoken on this issue, and just to see how this was supposed to be mass exodus in Oxford. This was supposed to be a disaster. Ole Miss, once again, they can't get over the hump. They can't do it. Here it is, the curse. It strikes again.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I don't know what next year looks like, but I'm hearing about a lot of optimism. I'm hearing about a group that's fired up. Pretty good signing day for a group that didn't have a head coach a few days ago. We brought in a lot of those defensive players. We had just a good group. And, in my opinion, I think this group is maybe 1 to 2 playoff wins and a splash offensive coordinator hire away from having all the momentum necessary to go build a top transfer portal class. And on top of that, you fill out the rest of your staff, have a couple good promotions, write the right amount of checks, and all of a sudden you're going to have a very good roster coming into the fall.
Yeah, the rumor is that we have a fat NIL package for players as well. And, I'm going to say it here. We don't need to worry about the guy from California. The players here that have earned it, pay them, keep them here, and keep the loyalty here. Proven stats. The players are on the field. We've got phenomenal players here, phenomenal coaches. We've been, Florida game, look at it. We packed the stadium, the highest sales we ever had, seats filled, et cetera.
For a 3-win Florida team, by the way.
Yeah, there you go, 3-win Florida team. We're sitting on gold. I mean, everything is great here. I'm going to stamp on the fact that it's not about win or lose the playoff game. If we go win the playoff game, hats off to the players, hats off to the coaches. But we've already won here in Oxford. We now don't have to worry about who wants to be here. We don't have to worry about who's going to be leading our program. We don't have to worry about any snake sitting in a recruiting room. We've got the guys here that are dedicated to the red, white, and blue here in Oxford, Mississippi. And I think that's the most vitally important part of being a recruit, looking here and saying, hey, I'm going to go to school here for the next 4 years. If your lady's always talking about leaving, then it's not really a great home to be in. Not a great relationship to be in. I think Pete Golden could obviously be the guy for 20 years here if he decides to be. Man, we again, everybody expected us to go 8-4, at 9-3 at best. We've already won. The guys did it. Y'all have done it. We got to carry this forward and make sure that we continue to stay positive. Saying that as a godly man and a godly culture in Oxford, Mississippi, we forgive the people that don't know better. We forgive the people that think the grass is greener on the other side, and it may be for you, but it's a great place here, and we can't forget what's been built. We need to get the negative out of here and let the light shine.
I was just about to say that the forgiveness is just as much a piece as gratitude is.
That's right.
I'm incredibly grateful for the set of memories that we've had and for seeing this, not only this facility get built, but seeing the vault full, seeing this bar full, seeing an 8-0 season, watching a group that was supposed to have 8 wins go 6-1 in one-score games, including several on the road.
Up 10 on Georgia.
Rain, shine.
In the fourth.
Yeah, it was an incredible run. And so, for the longest time, this has been about Lane. And I don't say it bothered me because I can understand, but I don't think we ought to look back on this and say, this is Lane's fault. I think it ought to be, we're grateful that Lane was here when he was here. And now he has moved on. We will move on. No more negativity. We're not pouring our energy into that. We're going to pour our energy into ourselves and what we're building.
Yep.
We're going to pour our energy into our sports team, which now has a leader that actually wants to be here. And so I think a lot of that is, it's a bit of a rite of passage as you talk about it with the adversity. But, let's dive into the adversarial piece of this. I mean, what are these players thinking now, having been a bit betrayed? The foxhole can bring people together, as we know. You've been in your foxhole. I've been in several of mine, nowhere near to the degree that you have. But where does this group go from here on a personal development side?
Growing up, this age is a little bit different, back when I grew up, you could get in a fist fight with somebody and you might be best friends with them in 2 days. This generation is a little bit different. I think there's so much you see online that could shape shift and form your life because, it's just not as, there's so much entertainment on your phone and there's so much distraction. And that's what Satan wants. Satan wants confusion, distraction, destruction. And I think that's the best part that we just did was we uprooted the cancer out of it. And now whenever we go to recruit these kids, they're not sitting even the ones that are going to stay, they're not sitting wondering, well, are you going to be my coach next year? Our administration from the top didn't call him an interim. They hired him as a permanent. We don't have to sit and wonder, are you going to be my leader? Are you going to be the guy? When you walk into that locker room down in Baton Rouge, or you're looking at a recruiting visit down there, I mean, you're sitting across from somebody going, well, man, I saw what you did last time, the last 4 times. Everybody you said you were going to stay committed to, you didn't. We've got that out of Oxford now. What a blessing.
What a blessing.
That is huge. And the players get to decide and look at each other and say, hey, man, you're my brother.
Yes.
We're loyal. We stayed through this. And whenever you commit to that, that's a bond beyond a Sunday morning feeling when you won a football game the night before. The bond of knowing that you've got a brother beside you, a team beside you, sweat, blood, and tears. They busted their ass together to be where they are now, and they haven't been able to be given the credit. And now, obviously, the credit is being able to be given to the team, and that starts again with the administration. Pete Golden is pouring it back into him. Joe Judge pouring it back into him. I would think from a player standpoint, the gray cloud is lifted, and every single athlete here that I've spoken to, including non-football players, have said that it feels like the weight of the world is lifted off, and it's flowing forward now. I don't feel like we're swimming upstream anymore.
It'll be real exciting when this story gets told in hindsight, where it's like, what came of this group?
Yeah, so true. You look back on the history of, guys, we've won 10. We've had big win seasons under Freeze and some other coaches before too. So, Lane never won a ring or a championship here. We appreciate the 11-1. We should have been 11-1 last year. Should have kicked 2 field goals, maybe 3. Sorry.
Maybe 9.
Yep, maybe 9. Maybe should have played running back more. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Are they going to be saying shoulda, woulda, coulda in 10 years? Are these players going to say that? It's up to them. It's up to you guys. It's up to you guys. You get to decide right now, what do we get to say about our lives? Nobody gets to decide anymore but you. And the spotlight is now on you. So the players are in control of their outcome. And clearly they're going to go to battle for this. I think they're more motivated now. Can you imagine the idea of the fear that you might have to play under a coach that's going to leave you every week, and now you have a coach that just stood for you? God, dude, I love this business. I love my life, but if I could go back and be in an Ole Miss football jersey right now with this coaching staff leading me, boy, I would trade it, except for obviously the people that are in our life now, but I would trade it just for a little bit. I'd love to have this opportunity. We're having all night revival. Some call it women and celestial rival. For the sake my survival, baptize me in a bottle of beer. Touchdown! Oh man! So what a moment we're in. Once in a lifetime opportunity for these players. I think it takes in life, it takes moments like this to pass you by, several of them, in order for you to realize that what a moment is all the time. And I think that's what these players are going through. And we've talked about the opportunity of a lifetime, but what a moment it is. Yeah. Not only for the players, for the city, for the fans, for obviously the world. The spotlight is on Ole Miss. The spotlight's on Oxford, Mississippi. I believe that I would like to say, if you don't have a team in the playoff, I would think that we're probably your favorite team going in. I would think that you're a good resume for America's team. Right now. We're America's team. I would think you're cheering for us, and if not, it's okay. We're used to that around here, but it's an opportunity of a lifetime, and man, we're blessed. That all gratitude to God. God's plan. Something that I have to touch base on before we close this out. When you talk about praying and you talk about God and you talk about you're going to give it to God, man, I can't help but look at the idea that this man said that he prayed about it and that he was, he talked to God and God said, go. It's hard for me to believe that God says, hey, walk out on a bunch of kids, uproot your family, and let's head down for more money, but we don't know how much money it is. You call that judgmental? I'm just calling it what it is. Yeah. I'm blessed to know that is no longer the mindset of the leaders that are teaching our generation of athletes here at Ole Miss the core values of what it means to be a human being, which is the Velvet Ditch, Oxford, Mississippi. God is good, and we are.
You bring up a fascinating point about interpreting God, and that's something that I don't think you ever cross the threshold on. That is the war we as human beings we fight every day, and we're going to uncover a lot of stories about how you and I have interpreted God throughout our lives. We both maintain a great rapport every each and every day. I mean, I've got a prayer routine that I've implemented this year that's really kind of changed my perspective on everything. I've never been more emotionally detached from things that I don't control. I've never had more peace and sanctity in what I do. I've never been more confident in just the daily ebbs and flows that the day has. And I think there's a lot that we can share on that, and a lot more that we're going to dive into along those lines. But interpreting God is not easy, as we know.
Facts.
And
I want to touch on something
yeah,
real quick before we close this out. When you look at it from a biblical standpoint, and no matter what you believe in, the truth that a Christian believes in must come from biblical truth. We all walk a flawed life. I fell every day, and that's why I need Jesus. I'm broken to 1,000 pieces every morning I wake up, and I'm grateful that Jesus is in my life and that I'm able to actually see myself in a mirror again and just give gratitude to that. But as a coach that leads these players, you look at like a fruit tree, and we kind of talked about this for a second, but like, you plant the seeds and then you look at this fruit tree and there's no fruit, and the whole entire time you're not sure of its purpose, but then you get this nice fruit and you're ready to eat. And then this coach walks out on these players and the fruit's hanging, and luckily we still have the opportunity to eat all the fruit based upon our gratitude, our effort, not just the wins and losses. But when it comes to a interpreting God standpoint, for me, my interpretation can only come off of what my personal experience has been like, and that's my own life. I can't force anybody to think any certain way. I have failed, and God has pulled me out of quicksand 1,000 times. But we are in a crossroad here for leadership to be able to really give gratitude as Ole Miss fans and not Ole Miss fans, just the support of humanity, that we have much better leadership inside of our program now than we had before. I don't see the negatives or the trending conversations of terrible news if one of these coaches ever leaves. There's been a lot of drama online about, the Lane Steam files, etc. I'm super grateful to not have to worry about that anymore.
yeah.
Like that is such a big deal that our players are learning from proper leaders, and God is behind this plan. God's plan is always greater than ours, and that's something this podcast is going to continue to do. We talked about this in episode 1. We're going to bring people on and help bring God's story out into their, God's story in their lives is going to get put all over this in the Velvet Ditch, from players to hopefully coaches, business owners, employees, and locals. Anybody that wants to come on, we want to close out and make sure that you guys here, we want you to send us people that you believe their story is something that needs to be heard here at the Velvet Ditch Seafood and Sports Bar in Oxford, Mississippi. Grateful for my staff, grateful for investors, grateful for the Velvet Ditch marketing team. If you guys need a podcast or you need some marketing, reach out to us directly. We are not Velvet Ditch Coffee Company. I've been asked to make that clear. We're not Velvet Ditch Coffee Company. They're great. They're a great company. They do their thing. Phenomenal job over there. We're two different companies. The Velvet Ditch Villas, that's not us either. We love you, Ashley. We support her business. And that's a woman we want to bring on this podcast. Again, help support the locals and bring out the culture here in Oxford, Mississippi. We love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, Nick, once again.
Signing off, Nick Douglas, Jared Foster. Ladies and gentlemen, sit tight, because we're in the early days of something that is going to be fascinating. Are you ready?
Hotty toddy, baby. See you soon. Playoff bound. God bless.